Hey, what's going on, everybody? Back with another build video, and this one I get a lot of requests about, probably more so than any of the other builds that I've run. And this is my tank build. So I'm going to go through everything here. Keep in mind, there's a lot of flexibility in this build as far as different exotic pieces, different weapons, some of the pieces of gear that you can change out. There's a lot of freedom here to do what you need to. There's a couple of staple rules that you want to follow, but all in all, you know, you can take this kind of a template for a tank build and apply it in any different way that you think is going to suit your playstyle. This just happens to be the one that I like the most. So, as you can see here, I've got the build in front of you guys. We are rocking three-piece Golan with a named point man chess piece. That's the Gila named chess piece. And I'll go over some of the talents and like why we're using these things. I just want to go through the names. We're using the named holster from R&K. It's called the Forge. And also I have the named knee pads from Murakami on here as well. And weapons we can see here. I've got Sweet Dreams. I've got my MG5, which is a staple in just about every build, and then a pistol. And actually, this is going to be really important for this build. So let's get into it. We'll start with the gear. What we're looking for here. So I've got three pieces of Golan. I did mask, backpack, and gloves. Um, and there's a couple main reasons why we want to do Golan, right? It's a defensive set, so we're always going to get, somewhat defensive stats on it. But the really important thing is the yellow mod slot. So with the tank build, you're going to have a shield that's pretty massive as far as hit points goes. You can see here my shield has 13.79 million hit points, and I've got some active regeneration and some holster regeneration, and these are pretty important. Um, and I will kind of go over this in a minute. We are all blues, so with shields, guys, it's not like skill tiers where you have to have yellows to advance skill tiers. With the shield, you can have either yellows or blues, and they both will advance your skill tier. Reds will not, obviously, but you can have a yellow or a blue, and it will advance your shield's skill tier. I do, however, recommend all blues, and I'll go over why in just a moment. It has to do with build synergy. But, oh, sorry, I have the wrong skill here. Let me change that really quick. We're going to be using Artificer. I just got out of the raid, so I had EMP Pulse on. But this is the build. So we've got our big bulwark shield, and then we've got the Artificer Hive, obviously a bonus from being the Technician spec, and we'll kind of go over that in just a moment. There's a lot to this build, and then like I said, there's a lot of flexibility, but a couple of rules that you want to follow are as follows. So the Gila chess piece, probably one of the most powerful buffs in the game, is the Vanguard buff that you get on this chess piece. You can get a regular chess piece with just regular Vanguard. However, Perfect Vanguard is very, very nice. And what that does is whenever you deploy your shield, it makes it invulnerable for 5 seconds. And it also grants 50% of your armor as bonus armor to all of the other players in your group. Now, you don't get that 50%, but everybody else in your group does. And you don't really need it because you're going to have a big freaking shield. But this is invaluable for group play, especially in legendaries. And I do run this tank build in legendaries a lot. In fact, almost exclusively as of late, because there's just not too many people that are building this. But a lot of people have asked me about it, so I think that there's a lot of interest in building this. And that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing here. So that's the chess piece. That is the point man named Gila chess piece with Perfect Vanguard on it. Now, the other talent we're looking at is the backpack, right? So we got a Golan Gear backpack. I'll go over the roles in a second. I'm just kind of trying to cover the talents first real quick. And what I've got on here is Protector. When your shield is damaged, you gain 5% bonus armor, and all other allies in your group gain 15% of your armor as bonus armor. So you can kind of see the theme here. We're stacking bonus armor for everybody in the group. The cooldown on this is only 3 seconds, so it's almost always up. As long as you have your shield out and you're doing your job, taking damage, pulling aggro away from your group, you're always going to be providing this buff to everybody else in your group. And 15% isn't huge, but you'd be surprised how many times that can save somebody's ass, especially when it's stacked with the bonus armor from your chest piece. So again, like I said, we got 3-piece Golan here. The important thing about Golan, especially for the mask and the backpack, is we're going to get these yellow mod slots. The theme for this, and you can look at my different pieces here and what I've got rolled on them. I've got a lot of repair skills, and a lot of people ask me, like, why do you have repair skills, man? That doesn't make much sense. Well, when you're using the technician specialization and you get this artificer hive, this heals your shield, and it heals your shield very, very significantly as well. You don't have to throw it on the ground. In fact, you don't ever have to even touch the skill. As long as you have it equipped on your bar and it's hanging from your bag, it is going to occasionally send out a micro drone to heal your shield. It's significant. I think without anything really specced into it, you're going to get about a quarter of your shield's health healed, which is really good. But skill repair adds to that healing by a significant amount. So if you're able to stack enough skill repair, you can get a really significant heal out of this artificer hive. I think right now, and I know I could probably do a lot better with some of these rolls, but they're not bad. It's a little difficult to try and get the right things in the right places, but I think 1 tick for my artificer hive right now heals about half, maybe a little bit more than half of my shield. So if you think about that, that's my shield's almost 14 million. Half, so I'm healing my shield for almost 7 million a tick. Now this thing doesn't proc like non-stop. It's probably one micro drone comes out every 20 to 30 seconds or something like that. But it's often enough where you can keep your shield pretty healthy throughout the course of an entire fight or an entire pull, especially if you have a healer dedicated in your group too. It's very, very rare that my shield goes down. Things have to get pretty hairy for that to happen, or I have to not be paying attention and get flanked on the side. But this goes a long way to make sure that my shield is not going anywhere once I've got it out. So that's why we've got Golan here, is for those yellow mod slots to stack some more skill repair. And then of course I just picked up the gloves so I could get that third bonus, because we're getting status effects for the first piece, which isn't really helpful that much, but the armor regeneration is huge, and of course the total armor is huge. And the total armor specifically is really, really big, because if you've noticed, these talents, Protector and Perfect Vanguard, give bonus armor to your group based on how much armor you actually have. So 50% of my armor is, as you can see here, I've got 2 million armor. I'm giving my entire group 1 million armor, bonus armor, every 25 seconds, which is a lot. Significantly so. We do encounters sometimes, like the raid, for instance, and I'll run my tank build just to keep everybody alive. And very, very often we'll do this and we won't have any deaths, just because of that extra bonus armor buffer that I'm providing to everybody. So as you can see here, the Golan gives me the armor regen and total armor. Now let's talk about the armor regen for just a second, and that's also why I'm using these knee pads, Emperor's Guard from Murakami. The 20% skill duration doesn't really do anything for me, but that 1% armor regen doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're stacking it between the Golan and the Murakami, you're adding 1% would be 20,000 armor per second per percent. So I've got 2% here. That's 40,000 armor per second that I'm regenerating, just based on those two bonuses, not including all the other armor regen that I have on my gear. So that's pretty huge. If you're taking some shots from the side, you definitely have to pay attention to it, but you're going to regen some of that armor back fast enough where it's not going to be that big of a deal. You can respond to things pretty quickly and not have to worry about, oh God, I'm going to die in like 2 seconds if I don't do something. There's a really decent buffer there, not just with your overall armor, but how fast you can regen that armor, right? So we've gone over the chest, the golem pieces, the Murakami, and then lastly we have the forge here. Now this should be pretty obvious to you guys why I'm using it, but it's that 10% shield health. Big deal. 10% when you're dealing with millions adds up to a lot. So this is a must-have, as well as the chest piece. Some of these other pieces you could alternate out if you wanted to do, like, get more Gila pieces, because you're gonna get a lot of the same bonuses that you would get for Golan. The only difference with Gila is, like, for instance, the mask and the backpack, they're gonna have blue mods in them. If you're really hard set on Gila and you got like really good rolls on these two, all blues or something like that, you could re-roll the mod slot to yellow if you wanted to, just to get the skill repair. I found this just to be a little bit easier to get the Golem because it's got the natural yellow mod slot, and then I can focus on other things. Now, as far as stat allocation on your gear, you can see here, if you look at all my pieces, you'll notice that they're almost all max armor rolls, except for my chest piece. I need to find a better one of those. But max armor rolls are super important, and I kind of explained that earlier. The more armor you have, the more bonus armor you can provide to your team. So really the number you're trying to shoot for is 2 million or better. With 2 million armor, when you proc your perfect vanguard and you take some damage to your shield, you're providing about 1.15 million bonus armor to your teammates. So, and this works in raid setting too. It's not confined to just a 4-player group. If I proc this and I'm in a raid, everybody in the raid is getting that bonus armor, not just the 4 people or the 3 other people in my specific group. So it's really, really nice. And that's why we're kind of rocking the order that we've got here. Going over, I'm sorry, secondaries. Hazard protection is huge. Obviously, we went over repair skills. That's definitely something that you want to try and garnish on your gear. But hazard protection, very, very good. Health and armor regen, I'd say, would be like a lower end roll. It's not bad. It's just, it could be better. So ideally, you would want hazard protection and explosive resistance. Or like this piece here is almost perfect. These gloves, it's got max armor, max explosive resistance, and I'm 0.1% off of max hazard protection. It doesn't get much better than this right here. The explosive resistance is going to make sure that you're not getting staggered from grenade launchers or just manually throw grenades. Hazard protection is going to make sure that, bleeds, blinds, when you get caught on fire, all that stuff is, not only is it not going to do much damage to you, but it's going to wear off incredibly quickly, so you can get back to doing your job, which is wrangling up all the enemies and making sure that they're paying attention to you and not to your squishy teammates that are trying to kill them. So keep that in mind when you're statting out your gear, what you're looking for. Definitely max armor rolls as much as you possibly can get. Beyond that, I would say hazard protection and skill repair are almost pound for pound as good as each other, and then explosive resistance would be a very small step behind those. Ideally, you want to try and get your hazard resistance or your hazard protection and your explosive resistance to about 30-40%, and then once you're in that comfortable neighborhood, you can really kind of just throw everything else in skill repair and let the heals fly onto your shield, and you just kind of stand there like a god, and nothing is going to do anything to you. So that's stat allocation for the gear. Let's take a look at the weapons. Now, there's a lot of different variations you can do here. I always carry an MG5 because you never know when you're going to need to whip this out and maybe drop a red bar or something along those lines, or you've got to do damage to your shield goes down, for instance, and this does happen in legendaries. You can get behind cover, you can whip this bad boy out and do a little bit of damage. You're not going to do much, but you're going to do a little bit of damage to help your team out, and that becomes pretty useful. Now, the Sweet Dreams, I love this thing on my tank build. Not only, are you damn near invincible, but when you have the opportunity, and you have to be careful with doing this, as many of the people that I've run legendaries with can attest to, you have to time this right. So the talent on Sweet Dreams is called Sandman. Melee attacks instantly kill non-elite enemies. So that means your red bars and your purples, right? This does not work on robotics. So Mini tanks, doggos, stuff like that won't work. But if it's a humanoid and it's not a yellow, this will one shot anything that fits that description. So it's really fun, and it provides actually a really good bonus and utility to your team, especially if you're doing legendaries. The power you have to just walk up to a purple with full armor and knock him out in one shot can really make or break any pull in a legendary, especially if you get the right one at the right time. It can be tremendous. So if you want to have fun, and it's a lot of fun, I would say too. So if you want to have fun, grab yourself a Sweet Dreams, throw it on the bar here, and go to town with that. We went over the MG5. I talent on MG5 fast hands. There's really nothing that you can pick that's going to benefit really too much. So I just go with whatever is giving me the most consistent DPS, which would be definitely fast hands. Now, the pistol. So there's a couple different ways you can go here. And I got to be honest with you, I don't have great pistols yet, so please bear with me. But you can see here, I'm using currently an X45 Tactical. The idea is you want to get as much pistol damage as you can. I stacked up on accuracy because I like to make sure that I'm hitting headshots. I like to make sure that whatever I aim at, I'm actually going to hit and it's not going to recoil off. So I didn't mind the accuracy. Yeah, you could do damage to targets out of cover or something like that. You could squeeze out more damage, and I'll show you some of my other pistols that reflect that. But I like this. And as far as talents go, really I've only found two talents to be the most beneficial, and that is close and personal, which is pretty self-explanatory. Killing a target within 7 meters grants 30% weapon damage for 10 seconds. Pretty huge. Or there's an argument to be made for something like this. Breadbasket. Landing body shots adds a stack bonus of 35% headshot damage to the next headshot, and it stacks up to 3 times. So you can effectively get, what's that, 135%. Am I doing my math there right? No, I am not. I'm sorry. That'd be 110% extra headshot damage if you were to stack it all the way up to 3 times. Which is pretty big, especially on something like a D50 where you're doing a decent chunk of damage already, and this one also has headshot damage on it. So this is going to hit pretty hard if I stack this breadbasket and then pop him in the head. It's gonna hit for probably close to 1 million, if not more. And so the D50 is nice too. The difference being the D50 has a much smaller mag, and the recoil is much wilder on the D50. So this is a weapon that you're not going to spam. You're going to take your time, aim correctly, make sure you're hitting the targets that you want to hit, especially if it's weak points or something like that. This will kill weak points quickly. You just have to be very patient with your aim. Whereas something like this, like my X45, I've got a 26 deep mag, so I can literally spam this at NPCs' heads and make sure I'm grabbing as many of them as I can, getting their attention, making sure that they're shooting at my shield and not at my allies, right? Liberty is another popular choice for good reason. It does a lot of damage, just like the D50. You can get really good stat rolls on it. But the Liberty or Death talent does pretty good for shields. And what that does is gain a stack on each hit up to 30. And then when you hit a headshot, it consumes those stacks. And based on how many stacks you have, it heals your shield for 3% for each stack. I found that this isn't necessarily needed. Even in the hardest legendaries like Capital Building and stuff like that, I've never really needed this. Could I have used it? May it have helped a little bit more? Sure. But I don't think it's really needed, and I'd rather have the Sweet Dreams on my bar to be one-shotting those purples and red bars when the opportunity arises. The other really good weapon here, and I'm going to show you this M45, but don't pay too much attention to it. It's something that I was testing with the Reformation thing for skill repair on my shield. I wouldn't really recommend this. It's not really needed, but you can try it if you want. When you're tanking, you want to do at least a little bit of damage with your pistol so that you make sure you're getting all those enemies' attention. And I found that Reformation just doesn't do that for me. Yeah, it does boost my shield healing a little bit. Not to an amount that's going to make or break the fight. But I'd rather have the damage on there just to make sure that I'm getting aggro on everything. But looking at the M45, there is a named variant of the M45. It is called the Mozambique Special, and it is a named M45. It comes with pretty decent stats, but it's going to come with the perfect version of Breadbasket, where you only have to stack twice, and you get a bonus of 50% head damage. I'm pretty certain per stack, so that's nice. You can get, you're getting more bang for your buck out of the Mozambique Special. I just haven't had a decent one drop yet. I'm waiting for that to happen, and once I do, I'll probably end up using that more than anything else. Um, Beyond that, like I said, we're using the Technician specialization for the for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the Artificer Hive is huge. You're never really going to fire your specialization weapon, but there's things like extra skill tier and stuff on there that you can kind of get some flexibility out of the build if you want. There's also skill repair native in this tree that's also very nice. But another really big boon to that is the EMP grenade. I've talked about this before with the CC build. This thing, guys, is so powerful, and it's so underused. It makes me cry sometimes. It's got a huge radius when you throw it on the ground, and you can zone out complete areas where you don't want enemies to go with this. Or if you're accurate enough, you can hit quite a few enemies with it and put an EMP on them as well. This is a really powerful tool, and I highly suggest utilizing it and learning how to utilize it better as often as possible. So that being said, the way the build works more or less is, and we're going to head over to the shooting range just so I can pull out the skills and kind of show you. Every time you pull out your shield, and the cooldown is 25 seconds to be able to do this. Now, the bonus armor only lasts 20 seconds, but the cooldown is 25. But when you pull out your shield, you're going to instantly proc that Artificer Hive. But if there was somebody in my group right now, you would see a big, huge blue bar on their armor bar, and that is the 1 million bonus armor that I'm granting to everybody in my group. Again, guys, huge for survivability in raids, for survivability in legendaries, even heroics. Like if you have a group that's really struggling to stay alive, you got some really squishy DPS, and they're not the greatest at positioning, you can throw this tank build on and tank for them, and it can really make the difference as far as, running a heroic or legendary or anything like that. And it can make it so much simpler and easier for everybody involved. The damage output on this is not going to be stellar, so don't expect it to be. Now, I will tell you, if you get a lot of melee kills with the Sweet Dreams, you can actually get up there with, like, some of the support damage builds and stuff like that. You can outrun the healer and a CC build or something like that. You're never going to do anywhere close to the damage that a pure DPS could do, but that's not really the point. The point is to keep everybody else alive so that your major DPS can do their jobs and kill everything, and get the loot and, have a good time. So that's pretty much it. There's not too much more to cover with the tank build. If you have any questions, or if you have different suggestions on how you'd like to roll the gear differently, I'm all ears. One other thing that I have been messing around with a little bit is changing out the knee pads for a Sawyer's knee pads. I found lately in legendaries I've been getting staggered a lot by, especially like grenadier robot dogs or grenadier humanoids. They like to spam grenades over and over and over again. So you might get staggered for like 5 seconds straight. Well, you throw these things on, and that's not an issue anymore. You can just stand there and laugh at them as they throw grenades at you. It doesn't really do much damage to your shield, but it makes it hard to move around and make sure you're getting aggro on everything. So if that's a big issue for you, if you find you're getting staggered a lot and it's just annoying, which occasionally I do, you can throw these bad boys on. And what it does is, this is the important part, cannot be staggered by explosions, is huge. As an added benefit, if you didn't move, if you stood completely still, you would get a stacking damage buff, which in certain circumstances could prove useful. But really what we're paying attention to on these is the cannot be staggered by explosions. So your drones, your grenadiers, the grenadier doggos, all that stuff, when they throw grenades your way, you're just going to stand there and laugh at them. So it's pretty nice. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all I've got for this build. I hope you enjoy it if you try it. We're going to go over one more thing really quick before I forget. We're going to look at the mods in these things. So, pretty self-explanatory. We're stacking shield health here. And then, for this, I like to use the damage bonus. It's nice. It adds a little bit more, especially if you're in a good swarm of enemies. You can actually get, upwards of, I think, 50% extra weapon damage if you've got enough enemies around you, which can be pretty huge, especially if you're trying to grab a bunch of aggro on a bunch of things really quickly. This little mod here can help out quite a bit with that. On the Artificer Hive, unfortunately, at this point in time, because of the nature of how you use this, there's no mods in this thing that are going to help you. It is what it is. Getting the skill tier helps a little bit from the technician specialization, will help you a little bit, but the most important thing is just that you have it on. None of these mods are going to do anything. Duration doesn't do anything because you're never going to throw it on the ground. Same thing with radius. And then healing doesn't actually affect skill repair. It only affects like the healing hive, for instance. I just have it in there as a placeholder, but it actually doesn't do anything. So mods on this, not important. Mods on this, pretty important, so make sure you're paying attention to that. And that is it. So I'm going to end this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you do. Thanks for being here.